My mom was on a family group call with 23 relatives, holding up my rejection letter from Stanford like it was a weather report. And I was standing in the hallway in my socks, watching the whole thing happen through the kitchen doorway. Let me back up. My family is close. Not like we hang out on holidays close. I mean, my mom talks to her three sisters every single day, my dad plays poker with my uncles every Friday, and my grandparents basically live at our house even though they technically have their own apartment 12 minutes away. I'm the oldest of three kids, and in my family that means something. Like, it means something heavy. My parents came to this country before I was born. My dad worked at a gas station for 3 years while he got his engineering certification transferred, and my mom cleaned office buildings at night while she was pregnant with me. They don't talk about it to make me feel guilty, at least not on purpose. But everyone in my family knows the story. Everyone knows I was the reason they kept pushing. The first grandchild, the first one who'd go to college in America, the first one who'd make it. I didn't ask for that. I want to be really clear about that. I never once stood on a table and said, yeah, I'm going to carry this family's dreams on my back, no problem. That was just the role I was born into, and by the time I was old enough to understand it, it was already too late to give it back. I'm 17. I'm a senior. I get decent grades, not perfect, but decent. I'm in the 3-7 range. I did Model UN for 3 years. I volunteered at a food bank, and I wrote what I genuinely thought were pretty solid application essays. I applied to 8 schools, 4 reaches, 3 matches, 1 safety, and I thought I had time. That's the thing that kills me. I really thought I had time to process everything before anyone else had to know. Here's what you need to understand about my parents in college. This wasn't just, we hope you get in somewhere nice. This was a 5-year campaign. My dad started talking about Stanford when I was in 7th grade. He'd pull up the campus on Google Earth and zoom around like he was giving me a virtual tour of my future life. My mom had a folder, a physical, actual paper folder, where she kept every award I ever got, every certificate, every progress report with a teacher's comment that said something like, shows great potential. She called it my portfolio. When I started my applications in the fall, my parents wanted to be involved in every step. They wanted to read my essays, they wanted to review my activity list, they wanted to sit with me while I filled out the Common App. And I let them help with some of it, I really did. But I also started doing a lot of it on my own because honestly, their anxiety was making my anxiety worse. Every time my mom read one of my essays, she'd get this look on her face like she was calculating whether it was good enough. And she'd say things like, maybe you should mention your father's story, or don't forget to say your first generation. She meant well, I know she meant well, but it started to feel like my application wasn't even mine anymore, so I pulled back a little. I stopped showing them every draft. I didn't tell them exactly when each deadline was, and when the decisions started coming in, to my email, to the portals I'd check alone in my room at midnight, I didn't say anything, not right away. Because I needed a minute. I needed to sit with it before it became everyone else's thing. The first rejection came from Stanford in mid-March. I opened the portal at like 11:40 at night, sitting on my bed with my knees pulled up, and I saw the words "we regret," and I just closed my laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't do anything. I just sat there and felt this weird, hollow numbness like someone had scooped out my chest with a spoon. The next morning, I acted normal. Then 2 days later, I got rejected from Columbia. Then waitlisted at UPenn, which honestly felt worse than a rejection because it was hope with an expiration date. Over the next week and a half, 3 more came in. Rejected from Georgetown. Rejected from NYU, which I really thought I had a shot at. Waitlisted at Boston University. The only acceptance I had was from my safety school, which is a perfectly fine state university, but it wasn't the story my parents had been telling everyone for 5 years. I was planning to tell them. I need you to believe that. I was going to sit them down that weekend, show them everything, explain that I still had options, that the safety school had a great program in my major, that waitlists sometimes work out. I had a whole speech rehearsed. But on Thursday afternoon, I came home from school and my backpack was on the kitchen table, unzipped, and my mom was standing by the counter holding a stack of printed papers. See, here's my mistake. I'd printed out some of the rejection letters. I don't even fully know why. I think part of me wanted to have them physically. Like if I could hold them in my hands, they'd feel more real and I could start accepting it. I'd folded them up and shoved them in the front pocket of my backpack, and my mom, who, yes, goes through my stuff sometimes, which is a whole separate issue, had found them. She was just standing there reading them when I walked in. She looked up at me, and her face was this mixture of confusion and hurt and something else I couldn't name. And she said, "When were you going to tell us?" And before I could answer, before I could even set my keys down, she said, "Your father is going to be devastated. Not, are you okay? Not, how are you feeling? Your father is going to be devastated." That sentence hit me like a car. Because it confirmed the thing I'd been afraid of my whole life. that my parents' feelings about my future were bigger than mine, and that my failure wasn't even really mine to have. It belonged to them. My dad came home an hour later and my mom had already told him. He didn't yell. My dad's not a yeller. He just got really quiet, which is worse. He sat at the kitchen table and read through each letter one by one like he was studying them for errors, and then he said, "You should have told us when the first one came. We could have done something." Done what? I wanted to scream. The applications were already submitted. The decisions were already made. What exactly could we have done? But I didn't say that. I just stood there and took it. Then came the part that still makes my stomach hurt to think about. That evening, my mom got on her regular video call with her sisters, my aunts, my grandmother, a couple of cousins, basically half the family tree, and she told them all of it. She didn't even frame it gently. She held up the Stanford rejection letter to the camera and said, in our language, something that roughly translates to, "He didn't get in anywhere. Only the state school accepted him." I was in the hallway. I heard every word. I heard my aunt say, "Oh no, what happened?" Like someone had died. I heard my grandmother go quiet for a long time and then say, "He should have studied harder." I heard my cousin, who's 20 and goes to a community college, by the way, ask if I was going to be okay, like I'd been diagnosed with something. My mom was crying. Not for me. She was crying because she was embarrassed. She kept saying things like, "We did everything right, and I don't understand what went wrong," and I just stood there in that hallway feeling like I was watching my own funeral. Within an hour, my phone started going off. Texts from relatives I barely talked to. My uncle sent me a long message about how life has many paths, which I know was supposed to be comforting but felt like a eulogy. My cousin sent me a link to an article about successful people who didn't go to Ivy League schools, like Mark Cuban or something. My grandmother called me directly and told me to pray about it. Every single message assumed that something terrible had happened to me, and not a single one of them asked what I actually wanted. By the time I went to bed that night, I had 19 unread messages, and I wanted to disappear off the face of the earth. I texted my best friend at midnight and said, "My mom told the entire family I failed." And she just wrote back, "I'm so sorry." That was the only response that whole day that made me feel like a human being instead of a headline. Here's the part I didn't find out until 3 days later. My mom didn't just tell the family on the group call. She had also, weeks earlier, back when she still thought I was waiting on decisions, told everyone at her church that I was applying to Stanford and Columbia. She'd been telling people for months. She'd shown my school photo to women in her prayer group and said, "This is my son, he's going to Stanford." So when she told the family I didn't get in, it wasn't just family that found out. The church people knew, her coworkers knew, my dad's poker friends knew. She had built an entire audience for my success story, and when the story didn't go the way she wrote it, she delivered the plot twist to every single one of them without ever asking me if that was okay. When I confronted her about it, she said, "And I'll never forget this, I was proud of you. I'm sorry that being proud of my son is such a crime." So here's where I am now. It's been about 3 weeks. I committed to the state school. I'm actually kind of excited about it when I let myself be, which isn't often because every time I start to feel good about it, someone in my family brings up the rejections again like they're still processing a national tragedy. My parents and I are talking, but it's stiff. My mom thinks I'm wrong for hiding the rejections. I think she's wrong for broadcasting them. My dad mostly just looks tired. I know my parents love me. I know they sacrificed everything for me, and that their dreams for my future come from a place of real, genuine love. But I also know that what my mom did, telling everyone without my permission, turning my private disappointment into a family spectacle, changed something between us that I don't know how to fix. And honestly, I keep going back and forth on whether I'm the one who started it by keeping secrets in the first place. So tell me, was I wrong for not telling my parents about the rejections right away? Or were they wrong for making my college decisions everyone else's business? Because I genuinely don't know anymore, and I could really use some outside perspective on this one.